This is False Start, a college football podcast for everyone and everyone else. I'm John Buhler, staff writer, fansided.com. I'm joined today by a man who once looked John Hickam in the face and said, "It's too late for love," because the only Rock of Ages he ever cared about was that West Virginia mining coal. I hate to say it, but all I've got is this photograph of Dr. Werner von Braun to get me through graduation at Big Creek High School. Cody Williams, content director, fansided.com. How in the hell are you? You filthy animal covered in coal dust.
Oh my God.
He was not ready.
No. They stole my picture, man. They even took my picture of Dr. Von Braun. Oh, dude, I'm doing good. That was incredible stuff. I'm very happy that that happened, but I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Our NBA teams that we care a lot about are both 1-0. The Hawks beat the Nets and the Hornets beat somebody, and this is
The
false start.
Rockets, baby. Big dub.
Dude, speaking of Rockets, yes. Today's episode of False Start is going to be October Sky themed, which, to be fair, I always call it Rocket Boys because it's an anagram for the same thing. That's the book that Homer Hickam Jr. wrote about growing up in Coalwood, West Virginia, where we get Homer Hickam High School from. And then also because of Rocket, we're doing and Armageddon it, we're doing Def Leppard for Carmageddon here for Antonio. So Def
Easy.
Leppard, Rockets, it's gonna be a time.
Yeah, y'all are in for a treat today because this is definitely going off the rails at least like five times.
Oh, I know, man. So yeah, we definitely watched October Sky. A lot darker of a movie than I remembered.
It really is. Like it's one of those movies that I associate this movie with watching it in high school. Like it was
Yeah.
like the quintessential like movie day in high school movie. And the thing about movies in high school is I did not pay attention to them at all. I was either trying to sleep or trying to talk to a girl, trying to talk to my friends, like was certainly not watching whatever movie was on the TV. So yeah, a lot darker than I remembered. Like a lot of death. A lot of death that going on in this movie.
We watched this in like career connections in eighth grade, that class. It's like you can do anything. This guy made rockets living in West Virginia. And I'm like, he had some really unsupportive parents.
Dude, yeah, like it might not have just been West Virginia. It might have just been his family structure. Like they were just pissed he couldn't play football like brother Jim.
Glad you brought up Brother Jim. Two things. That guy's got a Watt brother nose that's just mashed. And also the fact that like he gets to go to college. That Biff Tannen and Heifer gets to go to college. It goes to West Virginia where you can like very good engineering and uh, mechanical school. A lot of interesting stuff going on there. It's like he gets to go to a school that like I'm sure Homer Hickam would want to go to so badly. He did go to Virginia Tech though, and he did create rockets.
Yeah, Homer Hickam Jr. Did quite well for himself. Have you ever seen like the viral tweet of the chick who got like accepted into like a NASA internship and she was just like celebrating on Twitter and she was like, "F y'all can't tell me nothing." And Homer Hickam replied to it to the tweet and she like said something like, "F you can't tell me nothing." And he goes, "I'm literally a NASA engineer." And then she lost her internship.
Sonny was a legend, dude.
Dude, absolute legend.
Oh man, we'll talk about that movie throughout the show today. But okay, we obviously false started here, and I'm never going down there again. I want to go to space. That's our first and 15. And then, well, I got some real sad news for you, Homer. We are a bunch of hillbillies with it don't mean enough. Yes, we got three really interesting SEC games on the horizon this weekend. We got LSU going to A&M. We got Mizzou going to Bama for a college football playoff elimination game, and a very interesting one with Texas going to Vanderbilt. Oh my God.
Dude, it is a very weird SEC slate. Like LSU Texas A&M is definitely the headliner. That's when we're going to be coming to you live after on semi-live. But we're going to react after on Saturday night for 3 hours and a clown a punt. But that game, the more I look at it, the more intrigued I am by it because the more you dig into it, Texas A&M hasn't played a good passing offense this season. Like Missouri's probably the best passing offense that they played against, and we've talked all season about how Missouri has looked down, like their offense hasn't looked like what it was. Given the fact that Brady Cook had to go to the hospital
Yeah,
mid-game last week, like maybe he's just not healthy. Maybe he is just really, really banged up. Maybe that's a big part of it. I also think that they don't have the running game that they had last year with Cody Schrader going to the NFL. So like that's something. But regardless, like Texas A&M has not played a good passing offense, and LSU's passing offense has been good every single week. Like despite the troubles that they have had, it's not been the passing offense. Like that's been the one thing you can definitely count on. And I don't trust this Texas A&M secondary, but at the same time, like can Mike Elko devise something because they know LSU is not very capable of running the ball? Can he design something to slow down this passing offense? And then on the flip side of that, how real is this improvement from the LSU defense that we've seen? Like Connor Wegman, I still don't trust him, but they have been playing better offense. You look at that Missouri game, that was about as good as I think that offense can
right.
play, but like they showed they are capable of that in a high level game. So very intriguing game, and I truly don't know what the hell is going to happen in this one.
So this game is intriguing because these are the only two teams left in SEC play that haven't lost a conference game.
Hmm.
Granted, LSU's played like two or three. So and they both lost week one, to, obviously non-conference foes with LSU going to falling to USC in Vegas, and then A&M losing at home to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Notre Dame loss is looks pretty good. It looks really good.
Yeah.
USC loss not so much,
Not
but
so much
like
now.
whoever wins this game, they almost pretty much get to that playoff lock category because at
Yeah.
that point, like LSU can do whatever versus Alabama will probably get in at 10-2. Same with A&M with when they play Texas. But like the loser's not out, but the loser's like kind of gets down to how we view Ole Miss. It's like you got to win the rest of your games, bud.
Yeah, no, it's more of a as opposed to Missouri Alabama, which we'll talk about in a second, but like which is ostensibly an elimination game. This is almost like a play-in game. Like this is you're not a for sure lock. Like you still have to take care of business the rest of the season. And like you said, you get a little bit more cushion though if you win this game. So I don't think whoever wins or whoever loses is eliminated, but I do think that it basically does require if LSU were to lose, they've got to beat Alabama. If Texas A&M loses, they've got to beat Texas. Like that's kind of where I come down. Like it puts a lot more pressure on you and like your one big game remaining for each of these teams on the schedule, you have to make sure you come through in those games.
No question. And just for the record, I have all three of these games as part of JLN, so I'll give a pick at the end of the show.
I only have one. So, and it's not this one. So I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm taking LSU in this one. I think the line is Texas A&M
Two
minus
and a
two and a
half, maybe.
half.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm taking LSU as the underdog. I just feel that honestly, it really a lot of it comes down to I just do not trust Connor Wegman in this spot. I think that Blake Baker is a good defensive mind, and I think the fact that Missouri did not have him is a big reason why that game went the way it did. I don't think LSU is going to blank Connor Wegman and Texas A&M. I don't think this LSU defense is capable of that, but I do think that they're going to be able to slow them down and potentially cause some turnovers. Whereas I think LSU is just going to be able to methodically move the ball. They're not going to go a perfect record on offense or anything like that. They're not going to score every possession, but the Texas A&M defense is too talented for that. But I do think that there's enough matchup advantages, and Garrett Nussmeier is playing good enough that I'm just going to give the edge to the better quarterback.
Oh, for sure. I feel like that's totally fair. And that's totally like this game is really hard to pick anyway. I feel that like the result is going to be either like LSU beating Ole Miss in overtime or like,
Yeah.
Notre Dame just getting past A&M at home. It's like I would be shocked if this game was decided by more than like 10 points.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be decided by single digits. I feel very, very confident in that. Either direction, too. Like I don't see either of these teams getting dog walked.
For sure. And I think like at that point, like the winner of this game, they'll probably be probably eight whenever we do our rankings. Like I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
I had LSU in comfortably. You didn't have A&M. I think they were like your first five or six out, but I think
Yeah.
we both had like LSU in there, and I had A&M like 14. So like the winner of this game, we'll probably look at them honestly like probably the third best team in the SEC behind Georgia and Texas because I don't think we really trust Tennessee.
No, God, no, we don't trust Tennessee. And like I think the other thing that is interesting about this one is, you talk about the season opening loss, but I also think just as a whole, both of these teams have improved a lot over the
Yeah,
first 8 weeks of the season. Like this is a much better LSU defense, and I've talked about Garrett Nussmeier like becoming a better. Um, uh, I don't know how to phrase this. Like I know what I'm trying to say, but like his pocket presence has improved, and like I don't know how he would be a better pocket presence. But anyway,
it's
regardless,
more it's more refined. He's more refined. He's more
yeah,
polished. Like this
there
is
you
helping
go.
him. I think he's still got another year of eligibility. I would venture
Yeah,
to guess he'll probably come back, try to win a Heisman or national title. He's got the pedigree. His dad won the Walter Payton back in Idaho back in like the early '90s. I know he played for the Saints, but like he was a
I
stud
did
player
see
there.
that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
did see that. Doing a little Nuss research. I was actually doing some draft research to see if I thought he was actually going to come out. But yeah, I mean, like, and then the other sneaky factor with him potentially coming back is our colleague Scott Rogist and I were looking at the 2026 draft quarterbacks right now. Brother, that is a stinky class as of right now. Like the headliner would theoretically be Arch Manning, but considering the Manning family has already said he's staying 4 years, like that's not going to be. He's not going to enter the draft. He wants 2 years of starting before he goes into the draft. So like that's not going to happen. So like you take Arch out of the equation, you're looking at a Nico or Garrett Nussmeier. Like, there's not a whole lot there.
I figured if Milrow's got eligibility, he comes back and does it one more time, and I think that would serve him. And he'll get
Yeah.
better with like DeBoer. I think DeBoer's asking him to do more than Saban did, so give him that
Oh,
credit.
yeah.
So I guess going to that next game here with Bama Mizzou. It looks pretty doubtful that Brady Cook's going to play. That's
Mhm.
going to put Mizzou way behind the eight ball here. I mean, I do have this game in jail, and I'm not going to really say like what I'm going to pick. It's pretty obvious what I'm going to do, but like I do not the loser of this game. I don't want to be a fan of that team like right now
No.
because if you're Bama, that probably means you're not making the playoff. Like it's
Right.
you go from like 40% to like 5.
Yeah.
Mizzou, you're out of it with 2 losses. And more importantly, this is the same sort of issue we've been saying with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. It's like it's a program loss. Maybe it's like your ceiling is there, and it's different. Like say like you lost at home to effing Kentucky in homecoming, but at this point, like Drake could be a candidate to go replace Hugh Freeze at Auburn. Like he coached there. Florida could be interesting. Like Drake's a coach that could potentially be on the move here. And like if you can't get in at 10-2 in the SEC and you've recruited very well,
Yeah.
maybe you do need to leave.
No, 100%. Like it, and this is the other one I do not have in JLN. I'm picking Alabama in this one because let me be clear, I don't trust either of these teams right now. I really don't. And like that, I don't have confidence in Alabama because their defense honestly has given me no reason. Like this has been a very sloppy, undisciplined team for the last 3 weeks, like just point blank. And so I am worried about that. At the same time, Missouri's just at such a disadvantage. Like they haven't looked good. They've looked lesser than they were last year by a long shot from what they were last year. And now you're not going to have your starting quarterback on the field. Like I don't see them having enough juice to get anything done in this game. So that's why I'm going with Alabama. I suspect it'll probably be with margin just based on what I expect Mizzou's offense to look like. But yeah, I mean it is a program loss. It is, and I think it's even more stark than what we talk about with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss because Drink has hit the recruiting trail a little bit harder than Lane Kiffin has been able to at Ole Miss. Like
Right.
Lane's putting in the effort, but he's it's hard to win a lot of recruiting battles in the SEC when you're at Ole Miss. And so Missouri, he's been recruiting the St. Louis area well, but I think like the what I mentioned earlier about, the detriment and how much I think it's affected the offense of them losing Cody Schrader in their run game and trying to refill that with Marcus Carroll coming over from Georgia State. Like the fact that you weren't able to replicate that effort and refit like just backfill that running back spot, that to me is indicative of what the Missouri program is. And maybe Drink believes that he can get it to the next level. Maybe he believes, this is still we're still building something here. But if this was supposed to be like the final form, then that's a pretty damning indictment of what the final form of Missouri can be at this point.
I mean, you got a guy who kind of grew up in the same region from Arkansas. I don't know if it's technically the Ozarks. I forget exactly. It's southern Missouri, northern Arkansas. He's from Arkansas. So you should be able to have like a guy that could sell that. He's doing a phenomenal job recruiting in St. Louis because Iowa doesn't know what it's doing. Well,
Yes.
The reason that Ole Miss has issues is because they got to pull from Memphis, which is also where Mississippi State pulls from, Arkansas pulls from, and Tennessee pulls from. So, and then Kansas City doesn't always have the amount of players there. I mean, some guys maybe want to go to KU or K State, but like you're basically hitting as good as you can do, unless you could go into Chicago and get people like which
Yeah.
has a pretty good population there. A lot of people from like our colleague, our boss Megan Mel, like is Mizzou grad in Chicago from Chicago. So like
Yeah.
there's recruiting limitations there within Missouri. But like I was thinking about this. Uh, there's three outcomes for this game. Alabama could blow out Mizzou. Alabama can win by a close margin, and Mizzou can win by a close margin. And it's not gonna. Mizzou's not winning a blowout. That's not possible.
No, especially if Brady Cook, well, I mean, like, even if Brady Cook plays, like, the fact that his status is in doubt, he's not going to be 100%. And so, like, what are we looking at from this Mizzou offense? And I just don't think it's enough. Like, I think that the recipe for Mizzou winning, which again, I am not picking, but the recipe for Mizzou winning is just kind of an offensive masterclass, like really taking advantage of what the Alabama defense has been, quite generous in giving opposing offenses plays to make, taking advantage of those. Like I rewatched some of the highlights from or some of the game from Alabama Tennessee the other day. It was on, a rerun on SEC Network, so I had to throw it on. Why not? And Tennessee should have won that game by like three scores.
Yeah.
Like Nico limited what they could do. So if Mizzou can take at least a little more advantage of that, no matter who's at quarterback. And the other thing is, it has been posited, and I've seen some people talking about this. Jalen Milroe might not be 100% healthy.
Yeah, I was
And
kind of wondering about that. He looks a little bit off.
yeah, he doesn't seem to have the same explosiveness, particularly with his legs that we're used to seeing. And if that's mitigated, then what is this Alabama offense? Because I think you're right. Kalen DeBoer is putting more on Jalen Milroe's plate, but I also think that's like a growing process. Like we're still not all the way there. Like he's still not eating he's not cleaning his plate yet with all the more that's being put on there. So like that's the recipe for Mizzou winning. Again, not the most confident outcome, but even with that, like it is everything going right for Mizzou, and I still think it's going to be close margin if that were to happen.
Yeah, and it's also what Nick Sheridan's second year ever calling plays. Like he called for Indiana like one year and they went like 4-8. Before we move on to Texas Vandy, I'm gonna do a shameless self plug because I think this is also ties in there. The game that so I was on the Josh Hill of Peter Plank, our former boss came on and he we talked about Falcons Bucks part two, and the Buccaneers are really torn up. You know, they have Mike Evans is out on base. He's got a hamstring. He's out for a month. Chris Godwin dislocated his ankle. He's out for the season. They're looking to try to get like a receiver. They can't afford Cooper Cup, obviously. They can try to get Cooper Cup. They can't afford Tyreek Hill. DeAndre Hopkins went to the Chiefs because, of course, he did. But it's like, it kind of feels like in this situation, the Falcons are out, Alabama and Mizzou is the Bucks. Like Atlanta should win because it's like, okay, you're down your two best players. You got a turnover prone quarterback and you've got elite secondary. The Falcons' secondary played terrible versus the Seahawks. Probably just in awe of DK Metcalf, but like if Bates and Simmons like lock in, they can figure this out because Mayfield will turn the ball over. It's the same thing with Sab, with Devontae Jackson, with Malachi Moore. It's like if they just hone in, they should be able to pick the ball off multiple
Yeah.
times on Mizzou and comfortably. But there's also like you go into that game like there's also a chance Mizzou can just Mizzou and the Bucks could win it because it's a it's a conference game, it's a division game. These things happen.
No, 100%. Like weird stuff happens and like I mean, maybe this is overly simplistic, but like let's not forget we're at week 9 of the season. Like this is when weird chaotic stuff starts to really happen. Like uh Stacking the Box college football show, Reed Wallach was talking about how like, this is kind of a lesser week, and it is because like Mizzou, Alabama coming into the season, we were really excited about this game. We thought it was going to be marquee based on what we thought these two teams were going to be. And like it's lost some luster because of what they have been. And but when he said that, the thing that came to my mind is okay, the last time we had a lesser than week, Vanderbilt beat Alabama.
Yeah.
And like just chaos erupted. And like that's what happens as we get further in the season. You get injuries that, yes, we have injury reports now, but like not every like ding and nick and like someone being 90% is going to be reported on the injury report because they're gonna play at 90%. But like those little margins matter. And like that's when weird stuff can start to happen. So like it gets harder to pick these games. It gets harder to know where the chaos is going to come from, but it is coming. And like Mizzou upsetting Alabama in this game would be chaotic. There's no doubt about that.
We've already had two very chaotic games in the G5. I think on a was it a Tuesday night, Sam Houston, who was terrible a year ago, making the move up from FCS, they beat FIU 10-7.
Yep.
Like I'm
It was
like,
an ugly game. There was like less than 300 yards of total offense combined between the two
which is
teams.
not Sam Houston. Sam Houston scores a ton of points. It's like
Yeah.
it's so out of
It was a
character.
weird game.
But Sam Houston, they bowled him, bowled him, bowled him, bowled him.
Bold, bold, yes, sir.
And last night, a game we thought a game where like somebody was going to be bowling, 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 and pour one out. Uh, Kennesaw State, first year at FBS, beat Liberty. Thank God Liberty's removed from the playoff equation because they would have been undeserving. They don't have the app game. They can only go 11-0. I still have them losing to WKU. I think WKU is going to win the Kusa at this point, but like I think that's the first time we've seen a game where like an undefeated team lost to a winless team. I think it was like well, Virginia Tech lost to Temple like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
like
But I mean,
15
it
years
was
ago.
first off, shouts out. I don't even know his name, but the Kennesaw State quarterback, one of the smallest human beings I've ever seen on a college football field, just getting it done. He was dropping dimes on Liberty last night. Was a fun game, but I don't think I do have it in JLN, but it adds a lot of intrigue to the Boise State UNLV game on Friday night. That's for sure.
Yes, Davis Bryson. Yes, that's the
Okay,
quarterback.
Davis Bryson, our short king. Like, dude makes Kyler Murray look like Yao Ming. Like, unbelievable stuff.
I think they had that potluck for that 1-year-old's birthday party for David and Bryson.
For sure.
And
That's what it was.
he
You
popped out
thought it
of
was
the
a 1-year-old, but it was just Bryson.
yeah, he's coming out of the he's coming out of the crock pot. Yeah, there we go. I couldn't think of that
That's
word. But then
right.
we got Texas Vandy. I obviously I have this in jail, and I think you do too,
I do,
by
yes.
process of elimination here. Obviously, Vanderbilt has to win to stay alive. They're below the 10% threshold of getting into the playoff just because, like, anything below that, it seems highly unlikely, even though, like, the Colorados and the Illinois of the world are fun teams. It's
Yeah.
just not in their favor. That could change if they win,
Oh,
obviously.
yeah, absolutely.
And then Texas is essentially a lock at this point. But, like, if it goes the way that, like, would be chaotic, we have to take Vanderbilt seriously as a playoff team, and Texas may not make it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In the world of chaos, like Vanderbilt could absolutely get in there because let's not forget they only have one conference loss. Like one of their other losses was to, granted, not a resume booster, but they lost to Georgia Southern, Georgia
Georgia
State,
State by
right?
like one score in like early September, you know,
Yeah. Weird
and
game looking back on that one. What the hell happened there? But
then they lost like in overtime to Mizzou, like on
yeah.
a missed field goal attempt to win it.
Yeah. Like that's not a bad loss. That's a fine loss. But the Georgia State one's the one where you're looking at like, okay, this Vandy team's pretty damn good. How did we get to that point? But anyway, regardless of that, like in the chaos world, yes, we have to take Vanderbilt seriously, not just as a playoff contender, but as like a potential SEC championship game contender. Because like they have a win over Alabama. They have good wins. They would have a win over Texas. Like that's really big feathers in your cap for tiebreakers when you get down to the line. So like that could be something special. I do want to say I appreciate Vanderbilt being the pettiest of kings. I don't know if you saw this, but
Yes.
they put up a net on the visitors' side so that Texas can't be throwing the water bottles back onto the field. Love to see that.
I love it, man. It's like Clark Lee's in his bag. I hope Diego Pave has one more year of eligibility. I don't know. Maybe he should just fail school and come back. I mean,
Oh,
I don't
100%.
I don't think he does at this point.
No, I feel like he's been around for quite a bit because I know he was when he came to New Mexico State, he was a JUCO guy. So like he's probably in year five if at best at this point.
Biology major, the juke. The yeah, we know the nickname for him. It is he's the live dog. He is the
The
live
live
dog.
dog, baby. Always a live dog. I will say, but like, not to spoil the JLN pick when we get there, but like, the one thing that really does worry me about Vandy in this game and having a chance is not like part of it is Texas coming off the loss to Georgia last week. I have a feeling they're probably going to come out with their hair on fire. I have a feeling that they're probably going to come out and be a little pissed off at the way things transpired last week, which is not great for Vandy because as good as Vandy has been this season and like how improved they are, there's a different level of athlete that we're talking about when it comes
Yeah.
to Texas and even Alabama. Like, yes, they handled Alabama, but like that there was a reason that was that shocking, and that's because Alabama should be able to just manhandle them. So a mad Texas team is coming out there with better athletes. That worries me a little bit. But the other thing that does worry me is we talked about again, just going back to the Mizzou-Alabama game. I still like the talent in Alabama secondary is there. The success of the Alabama secondary has not been there. They've been allowing a lot of open runners. Texas is not that team. Texas is one of the best coverage units in the entire country. They have a good pass rush as well. I don't think it's going to be I don't think the Vanderbilt offense is going to be able to move the ball as freely and easily as they did against Alabama, despite the fact that, like, I still think this offense is good. Obviously, a big fan of Diego Pavia. I just think that you're going to be playing on a harder difficulty than you did in that Alabama game.
Yes, I don't think well, a lot of things here that a lot of good thoughts going through my mind. A lot about Vanderbilt, mostly. Yeah, This is people care about Vanderbilt now. It's crazy, but
It's awesome.
it's crazy awesome. But so because Texas lost, they're not going to redcoat it,
Yeah.
and that is why I think that like the game could go in that direction for Texas. I also kind of feel that like Diego Pavia is a little more comfortable in those adverse situations.
Yeah.
Not to say that Arch was uncomfortable. I just think that was an impossible situation being thrown in there, and he did okay. I don't know what Quinn was doing. Maybe he was just hitting it. Maybe he was just high. I don't know what he was doing. It was
So if you would like a theory from my personal hero, Bud Elliott, I think it's a pretty good one. Um, in Red River, Quinn did not look all the way healthy. He looked like about
okay.
85%. And there's a chance because the way Sark and maybe Bud Elliott is reading too much into the way Sark phrased this, but he was asked, why did you bench Quinn for Arch and then put Quinn back in? He said, I wanted to get Quinn back in the locker room and get his head reset. This is a fourth year quarterback. He doesn't need his head reset. He's had a lot of big games. To me, and to like what Bud Elliott said, and I'm subscribing to is that like I don't think that oblique injury is 100% healed. I think he went back to get a cortisone shot and like to feel better
Yeah,
because he was getting his ass kicked out
shoot him
there.
up. Maybe he was high on cortisone, so maybe that's
Yeah.
part of it too. So I looked at Vanderbilt's schedule. Obviously, a third loss really puts them in a very difficult spot. But technically, at the start of the year, if they went 9-3, they could get in with their schedule. It's the same thing with Georgia. Florida's the only 8-4 that could conceivably get in, which is why I don't want to put Billy Napier in the hot seat. Like, what more could you ask out of him at this point?
Yeah.
Um, Even though he may get fired, I think it really comes down to Ain't No Sunshine.
Yeah, it really does. And like, I mean, yeah, because I mean, that game is most likely going to be for bowl eligibility for Florida, like, highly likely that it is. And so, like, I don't know, man. It's a tough finishing stretch. Like, we're complimentary of what Billy Napier has done to get this team to 4-3 right now, but there's still a world where they finish 4-8, 5-7.
Yeah, I'll definitely talk about Florida later as part of a really fun thing that you threw together, for sure. But with Vanderbilt, I would say like you're right though, like the talent's not there. Look, this isn't like Clark Lee's not like a guru or anything like that. He's like a former defensive coordinator that played fullback, so he's a CEO type. That's what he is.
Hmm.
But it's like with programs that are like, oh, my scheme, my offense, it's like you got to execute it at A level. But if you play against a Georgia, Texas, their C can just be better than yours. So it's like Vanderbilt's got to play like an A game to beat Texas, and Texas has to play like a C game. And it's
Yeah,
like you're kind of wondering, like, is that possible? Oh yeah, but like, is it likely? Not really.
yeah, exactly. That's a really good way to put it. Like, Vanderbilt needs things to break their way, in my opinion, because like I just like I'm not trying to take away the Alabama win from Vanderbilt, but I think we've seen from Alabama that this is a flawed team, and like Texas, they have one loss. It's to Georgia, who might be the best team in the country. So like, how much are we really going to dock them for that?
For sure. I mean, with this, I've got a theory. This is my brain is working and stuff. This is really good or bad. Maybe I'm an idiot. I think we can just chill out collectively saying like it's just a hard place to get in with some places in college football because look, more and more people are enrolling early, which means you have to graduate early, which means you can't be a simpleton. So
Yeah.
like if you can graduate early, you can pretty much go anywhere in the Power Four, I think. I think within reason. I mean, there may be some stuff. It's like, okay, if you're here, can you stay in the major? I
Yeah.
think that's fine. Like if you graduate early and you really want to go play at Duke, a la Malik Murphy, like you can go
Yeah.
do that. The problem is, I think that like some of the high end people to the student athletes to sustain and stay in, like they can all go to places, but there's like six schools where like that check that box. It's Vanderbilt, it's Duke, it's Northwestern, it's Wake Forest, it's Stanford. Trying to think, I'm probably missing another. Maybe those are the big five with Power Four private.
Michigan's kind of up there as
Yeah,
well.
Notre Dame a little bit too, but like Cal, but like
Yeah.
it's all about allocating them all at the same point. It's like the same theory with like only one ginger quarterback can be good at a time in the NFL.
That's right. 100%. Shouts to Andy Dalton.
And when Andy Dalton comes over to your house, you gotta say this. I'll live in a tree to get away from you.
That's right. You don't want Andy Dalton at the crib.
And you certainly don't want Brent Venables. Yes, we're gonna do some. You're doing great, sweetie. Man's got no aura. Man's got no fuel for an SEC head coach. He made the logical decision of going back to Jack Startle after burning his red shirt because at this point, all you have to do is just save face and try to recruit. Because at this point, your season's over. You're going to lose to Ole Miss this weekend, and then you're going to be what 4-4, and people are going to be asking for you to get out of town like Tebow.
No, 100% they are. And yeah, like I don't see this Ole Miss game going well for them. I'm not gonna, pick it yet because I do have that one in JLN. But I do think that
Same, yeah,
so like you look at this, you look at where Brent Venables is, and like firing Seth Luttrell, I can understand some of the reason behind it. This offense has been putrid. Like there's no two ways about that. And that's not Brent Venables' side of the ball. That was supposed to be Seth Luttrell's side of the ball. It did not work out. However, I do wonder if something about the quarterback change to Michael Hawkins, which obviously did not work, was Seth Luttrell. So maybe he was the easy scapegoat to go with there. But at the same time, you're firing someone from their alma mater. You're kind of alienating your program further from other alums. Josh Heupel being one that you've mentioned, I know. Like you're just further alienating him and like the pipe dream of bringing him back because I think Josh Heupel will be a really damn good coach at Oklahoma. But probably not going to happen at this point. So like you're you're setting yourself up for failure and you're setting your program up for failure. Like at this point, okay, let's say Brent Venables does drop to 4-4. Let's say they just keep dropping because they still have LSU on the schedule. I'm not looking at their schedule, but like that they do not have an easy remaining schedule. Like there's a chance that they're fighting for bowl eligibility. Like there's a chance that this team does not go bowling, bowling, bowling. And so like if that were to happen, where does Oklahoma even go from here? Because like maybe there are options, but I still don't think there are like for sure options. Like I that with how precipitously things have fallen off since Lincoln Riley's departure and since Brent Venables got there, it almost makes you wonder if they should go to the do a better version of it to be very clear, but go to the North Carolina School of Rehabilitation and rehire Bob Stoops or something like that.
yeah. Man, he's living his best UFL life right now. But like,
Right.
look, this is the third offensive mind you've asked to leave in like the last decade who's an alum. I mean, yes, Cale Gundy had to go, but at the same time, like that was recruitment. That was your quarterback's coach. That was the guy who
Yeah.
played there. You know, Seth Luttrell, former North Texas head coach, obviously played there, went to OU. And you move on from Josh Heupel. Josh Heupel doesn't want to go back. It's like, how can you sell this to like the alums here that want to come back and do this? It's like Joe Castiglione's been overseeing it the entire time as their athletic dictator. He's been there forever. It's
Hmm.
like I think he's been in this job longer than Kirk Ferentz has been in his job at Iowa. It's insane.
No, he's like from like a fantasy novel. You know how like there's like the king who actually died like 3 years ago, but they don't want to upset the city, and so like they're just acting like he's still alive. I'm pretty sure that's what Joe Castiglione's doing at this point.
Low key, they need to make a movie about like a Woodrow Wilson's wife while he was a vegetable and she was basically the president. But they
Yes.
but like repackage it so it's like it's maybe there's some sort of pun. Um I don't know, but like you do it like the with the Jason Biggs spinoff they were gonna do with the Paul Feinbaum show, but do it like that. But it's a president.
Yes, absolutely.
uh, uh, Weekend at Bernie's are like the term
Yes, absolutely. Weekend at
terminal.
Bernie's.
But it's I don't know what you do. Like I don't know if you can fire him. It has to become completely untenable at that point to do it. And then it's like, do you go if you do, Heupel's obviously not going to come.
Yeah.
Do you get Beamer to come? And that was kind of like my best bet. Like he
Hmm.
would do it. We've always said that Shane Beamer, as a front runner, needs to go to a bigger program. It's the same thing we said with PJ Fleck. It's like if Michigan were to open up, PJ Fleck would be a candidate regardless of what happens at Minnesota because it fits the ethos of what they would need to do.
No, 100%. Yeah, like I think it just fits the vibe of what they need because Beamer, again, I think a lot of Beamer's perceived shortcomings as a head coach at South Carolina are South Carolina institutional problems. And like, not saying that's a problem necessarily, but just like limitations is probably the better way to say that. Like, what South Carolina's ceiling is just lower than people want to realize, particularly South Carolina fans. But like, I do think that Shane Beamer is the type of guy that can come in and far more so than Brent Venables, like add some excitement there. Like Shane Beamer's a guy who I think as a fan base, when he comes into the building, you want to follow him as a leader. Like he's good at selling himself, he's good at selling his vision. And like I do think that he has South Carolina in a pretty decent spot for South Carolina right now. Like better than we thought coming into this year for sure. And like that's a testament to the fact that like he's still been working on his vision there. So I do think he would do a lot better at a program that has a higher ceiling, has more resources, is going to have the investment behind a new head coach. Like I think it's a really great idea by you to think about Shane Beamer in those terms.
My favorite thing about Shane Beamer is everywhere he's been, like he treats the place that he goes to with respect, and he goes back.
Hmm.
Like obviously, his dad's a legendary coach at Virginia Tech. That's his alma mater. If that opportunity ever came up, maybe he goes there. I think he's better than that job. If Oklahoma opened up, he could go there. Obviously, he has a lot of respect for South Carolina being a Steve Spurrier disciple. And I'll tell you what, I'm actually going to say this. If Kirby Smart retires like in 5 or 6 years, that's probably the guy I would go get.
I, I wouldn't hate it. Like I really wouldn't. I think Shane Beamer is a damn good coach and someone who could come into any like top third P4 program and make a difference, make a positive impact on them, especially if you're in a spot like I also think that I do wonder, like, if like an opportunity like a Georgia or something like that would be better for him, where it's like a transition of power as opposed to like a hard reset. Like, I do think
Yeah,
Beamer's capable of both, but I do think that, like, if you're getting to the upper echelon like a Georgia, I do wonder if it would be a like Kirby Smart's not getting fired. So like
no,
Georgia's a bad example for that, but like if like in a world that doesn't exist where Kirby Smart got fired, I do wonder what Shane Beamer at Georgia would look like, but in a transition of power, absolutely.
no, it's like if Kirby retired, like if he's like I'm done
Yeah,
at like
yeah, yeah.
55 or
No,
something like
exactly.
that. This also goes back to the Blog Dirty podcast, something I was talking to Josh. I tell you what, man, this time of year right now, the sun's been just killing both of us right
Oh yeah,
now.
100%. I'm like super close to the microphone and the computer because I'm trying to stay out of the
I know,
sunbeam coming down.
I know, I got to sit back like this, but I might fall backwards, and I got to enunciate more. So I'm gonna try to do this for the show, just see how it goes, because it's making me sweat a little bit. But anyway, on the Blog Dirty podcast, also be sure to like, rate, listen, subscribe, review to that show.
Do it.
One of the advantages that the Falcons and Bucks have as their head coach is because like Todd Bowles had been there on Bruce Arians' staff. That's his greatest mentor. He didn't go into Tampa Bay and like say, "Oh, I got to create a bunch of new traditions or nonsense." Like he's like, "There's a lot of good things going on here. On here, I'm going to build upon that." Raheem Morris being on Dan Quinn's staff for 5 years and then being his interim, coming back, it's like everybody else who comes to Atlanta is like, "Oh, let's just do new traditions. I don't respect the past." He's like, "No, there's good stuff here." Oh, hey AJ, hey Chris, I remember working with you back in 2020. Like I feel like that's a good thing that like Beamer would have, and I feel like maybe that's what Oklahoma would need to do. And the worst part is Venables had that. Venables was there. Venables had respect for the program. If it doesn't hit, if it hits the fan for Oklahoma, you got to find somebody that has like who's worked there before or has some sentimental attachment. But like the last couple of years, it's like that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. No, I mean, I do think that, and let's be clear, like Brent Venables is not Dabo Sweeney at all. Like
Yeah.
he's shown a willingness to use the transfer portal. He's shown like things that Dabo has not to this point. But I do think that like I do think as Dabo's star continues to not necessarily it's not burning out, but it's faded. You know, like he is not the when you're talking about the top five head coaches in college football, Dabo's not in that conversation anymore, and he was for a very long time. And so, like, I do wonder if like maybe that's one of the issues with Venables is that like yes, he was a good defensive mind at Clemson. There's also you know, if you go and you scour the corners of the internet that you can, message boards and whatnot, there's a lot of people who said that Venables was just very good at stealing signs and not in the Connor Stallions way, but just very good at stealing offensive signals from tape. And so I do think that like maybe as he's become having to become more of a CEO type and not being able to invest that as much anymore into that defensive side of the ball, his superpower of being a defensive mind is going away. And obviously, he struggled with offensive coordinators like Jeff Lebby getting poached away, and then he didn't know how to backfill that spot. So, like, I do wonder if like there is some like maybe it was just Oklahoma got caught with their hand in the cookie jar and they reached in the wrong cookie jar with Venables.
That makes sense too. And also, he was at Clemson for like a long time, and he would have left sooner if he wasn't like coaching his sons. Like that was a
Yeah,
big part of it
100%.
too. So that's interesting as well. Any other thoughts here about Oklahoma? Because I feel like we got to go somewhere else.
Oh, we got to go somewhere else for sure.
Yeah, man. I don't know, but yeah, we'd have to go to Snake Root. Yes, we're gonna go there with some Big Ten energy.
Cape Coldwood, baby.
I have like some thoughts about this. It's like I think it's good that like we've realignments made it more interesting. But like the fact that Illinois has got a playoff elimination game and it has to go to play at Autzen, it just kind of sucks. Like it's gonna be an awesome game, but like the fact that that's a component into it as well. I just feel like, as an SEC guy, all those teams that we added are contiguous or already there, so it's not
Mhm.
geographic. They're all in the same two time zones. I don't know if North Carolina's had to go to Cal or Stanford yet,
Not yet.
or Dallas.
They have not. No, they haven't had to make the hard trips just yet.
But I'm just like, man, I really like this Illinois team, but like it's this ominous road date at Autzen. Unless there's like liquid sunshine and they can win a game like 24-21, it's going to be very challenging for the Illini.
No, I mean, even if this game was in Champaign, it would be very challenging for Illinois. Let's be clear about that. Like, Oregon's pretty damn good. Like, I think that's one thing we learned in that Ohio State game is that Oregon, like, I said that Ohio State might have been the one playing possum. Apparently, Oregon was playing possum because that was the
Yeah.
best game I've seen Dylan Gabriel play in Eugene to this point. So, like, but I do think, like, yeah, it is. It does. It sucks for Illinois to be in this position, and like, it does make you wonder, like, okay, we're let's say we're, a few years down the road and Oregon and Ohio State meet late in the season and Oregon has to go to Eugene again. Like that puts them two potential playoff contenders, two teams vying for a Big Ten championship. That's such a different home field advantage than going to play at the big house, which is, a stone's throw away ostensibly from Columbus. Like it's not that far. It is a reasonable travel schedule. Eugene is not that. If you have to go to USC, say USC gets fixed, and you have to go to LA, make that trip, like that is a long trip, a long road trip that you're having to make.
Or Seattle, or if the Huskies have to go to
Yeah,
like Happy Valley. Like it's the whole other wrinkle. It feels very NFL and stuff like that. And it's the same thing with the ACC too. It's like, let's just say Clemson has to go play a championship game in Palo Alto. Like that would be
would be hilarious.
very 2014.
Yes, exactly.
But I don't have this in JLN. So maybe you do.
I do not. I actually I went with some deeper cuts for JLN this week, so we'll have some of those on there.
Yeah,
I'm going with Oregon. They're 21 and a half
same.
point favorites. I mean, like I think they win it outright. I do think Illinois. I have enough respect for Brett Bielema to think that they probably cover that. I think they can keep it within three scores. I think this offense is capable of scoring at least a little bit on Oregon, and I think the defense is well coached enough to not stop Oregon, but slow them down enough to keep it respectable.
Yeah, they only lost by like 14 points to Penn State. So I mean, like it'll be close. They're not going to win. They'll probably lose by two scores, but it won't be some Ryan Walters losing the blackout game at home 35 to nothing. He is
Good
so
old
cooked,
Ryan.
dude.
He yeah, dude, he's very, very done at Purdue.
I'm an idiot for saying he might be a candidate for Colorado. Maybe one day. Just if he got that job way too soon. Maybe he should go back to Illinois.
Hey, I'm sure Belima would welcome him with open arms back. Like,
So yeah, I wish this game. I feel like the geography of it all, like the helmet thing is cool, but at the same time, I feel like that's basically not making the game as exciting as like the three SECs. Which I mean, yes, I think that like maybe the Alabama Mizzou game could kind of be a blowout or something like that too. But if this game was played like in Indy or something, and like it's a
yeah.
championship setting, it'd be much closer.
No, 100%. Like just meet in the middle, like play like the Fargo Dome, like play at a neutral site right between the two. That's what I want to see.
Go play in Warren Buffett's backyard.
There we go. That's what we need.
Warren, what are all these people doing in our backyard? Don't worry about it.
I sold some real estate to the Big Ten.
Uh, I sold a bunch of Apple stock, and Berkshire Hathaway is now owns 35% of the University of Illinois, and Shad Khan is pissed. I
Oh my God. Tony Khan still got the neck brace on.
was born in a neck brace.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to say that because that's really inappropriate, but also it might be really inappropriate with what's going on there with Michigan State. And I tell you what, you brought this up, but to add a little bit of oomph to this segment, Sherrone Moore loses to Jonathan Smith. He may have to get a snake root.
Dude, he may have to go to Snake Root. Like, I think that honestly, the general vibe around Michigan right now seems to be pretty accepting of just what this team is and the short and like the hardships that Sherrone Moore was going to have to face in a post Jim Harbaugh world, losing all the talent they did, being under investigation from the NCAA. Like, he had a lot working against him, and I think that that's pretty acceptable. This game is kind of the turning point for how that vibe continues because we've seen Michigan State be wildly erratic this season,
Yeah.
just wildly erratic. You don't know what you're going to get in a given week. I think long term, I what I've seen from Michigan State this season has me really high on what Sparty can be under Jonathan Smith, which we were high, when they made the hire. We really like Jonathan Smith as a head coach. But I think like Aiden Childs has had moments where it's like this dude could be like a star in college football. He's also had moments where it's like, holy hell, are you Joe Milton? Because that's what you look like right now. And so it's very erratic. But because of that erratic nature, like it's a game where Michigan, who, yes, they have obvious shortcomings on offense, but they should be able to defensively come in there and really cause someone like Aiden Childs, who's still inexperienced, a lot of problems and kind of just manhandle Michigan State in this game. Like, if you're a Michigan fan, that's what you want to see. It doesn't have to be pretty, but you should be able to manhandle it, win 16-7, and get the hell out of there. But if you don't do that, that's a real problem. That is a real indicative problem that it's not just the talent, it's not just the losses that you've incurred. It is potentially an infrastructural problem.
Ooh, Charles, are things gonna get easier? I don't know. Maybe. Uh, I'm gonna do that with him for as long as he's like in college football.
100%.
But like, if you're Michigan, I mean, like, this kind of feels like a must win to basically ensure that Sherrone Moore is going to get 2 years after this. Because like this is not going to be Zach Arnett because like
No.
he was so highly touted, like, oh, this is my guy. It's like we kept hearing for years about Jimbo Fisher under Bobby Ballard. We kept hearing about James Franklin under Ralph Region, like for years,
Yeah.
or Kirby Smart under Nick Saban. Like this guy's been groomed. It's like this is his opportunity. Like you're not gonna Arnett your coach after this. I mean, Deshaun Foster maybe, but that's a different circumstance.
Yeah.
Although Bruin's got to win, so I think that helps them a good bit there too. I'll probably talk about them a little bit later. But like if you lose to little brother in this game to like have what your fourth loss of the season, like if you're losing to Illinois and Michigan State back to back, something's really wrong with the Michigan program. How do you recruit? And at that point, the conference is different. You have the four West Coast schools there. Nebraska's up, Illinois is up, Indiana's way up. And where are you? You're in the
Yeah.
middle. You're irrelevant. and this is false start.
Yeah, I mean, like you're basically at that point like a mid-tier Big Ten West team from years past. Like the teams that like, okay, sure, they're gonna lose to Iowa, and Iowa's gonna go play in the Big Ten championship game. Like that's really what Michigan becomes. And like if Michigan becomes that, Ann Arbor's not gonna be a happy place to be for Sherrone
Yeah.
Moore at all because that fan base will cook you in a hurry.
They're just going to go to Detroit and watch that football team instead of this team.
Hey, it's a fun football team. I can't fault them for it.
I mean, I picked the Lions for the Super Bowl at the start of the year, and I feel pretty vindicated there, even though Hutch is hurt.
He'll be all right. He's fine. He's a Michigan man. What are we talking? See that there's the time. That's a Michigan man. He'll come back for the playoff run.
Mhm. He's a freaking Michigan man, man.
Man.
Man, I will say though, I do feel like Eric Glenn, their DC, that's the next like star head coach. As everybody's like anointing Ben Johnson, he might be a little weird, and that may not play well with the media. And I had a weird head coach who was an offensive mind named Arthur Smith, and that didn't work out. Aaron Glenn, go hire him at the Jets. He played there. You'll figure it out. Tell Aaron Rodgers to shut the frick up.
Tell Aaron Rodgers to just go away, quite frankly. The excuse king. My God.
Via.
But no, like going back to Michigan State, like I do think that like I just I'm not a Michigan fan, obviously, but like the more I look at Sherrone Moore, the more I am worried whether or not this guy is like an actual head coach. He just doesn't. There's nothing I've seen from him, nothing I've heard him say after the way this season has gone that inspires confidence to think, oh, he has a plan to like revitalize this, to get it like to get things back on the right track. There's nothing I've seen from that inspires confidence. Maybe it's happening behind closed doors. Maybe the administration feels differently, but like he feels like trying to think like if we're gonna like talk about Jim Harbaugh disciples and things of that nature, like it seems to me like Jesse Minter was actually the golden child and not Sherrone Moore. And I think that's a tough place to leave Michigan in.
Well, also the fact Jesse Minter's dad, Rick, who is on the staff, is like the mentor for Jimbo Fisher and Sam Pittman. Like that's
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
back at UC way back in the day. That team went like 3-8, but they had a lot of good coaches on that team too. Somebody else too. The photo where before the rack of ribs was really being cooked and Sam Pittman was on that staff.
It was still at the smoker. We had a few hours to go.
Oh God. But I guess like the last thought I've got about Michigan here is like I think it really comes down to how well Dusty May looks in the hardwood this year. And
Hmm.
if he's not ready for that, Santa Ona may be like, Ward and Sherrod, you guys gotta go.
Yeah, it's
And
entirely possible.
at that point, JD Pollard, Matt Campbell, welcome.
So, so glad to see you. Come on down.
Guess what? You guys have a baseball team now. Holy ass. Are you kidding me? This is gonna
This is
be great.
this is gonna be magical.
And I don't know if this is going to be magical, but how about I believe in the unlucky ones? Yeah, let's go on to some 4 for 4 here. Cody's brainchild. One of the best quotes probably from October Sky is just like Miss Riley, Miss Riley.
Miss Riley, God Almighty. First
It goes
off,
it.
shouts to Laura Dern, who I would die for. Love that woman. Great in literally everything she does.
She kicks some serious ass, goes up to Principal Turner, who hated education. And she's like, how about I believe in the unlucky ones? There's better than things than dying in a mine.
Yeah, some would say.
Also sad, like Miss Riley passed away from like Hodgkin's lymphoma at like 31 years old. And
I
like
know, man. Tough, tough. Again, a dark movie. A really dark movie.
also shout out Ike, man. Ike deserved way more love than he got. That guy was a hero.
Dude, Ike Bukowski, what a guy. Like rewatching the movie yesterday, got a little emotional when Homer's at the National Science Fair and he has Ike's little I don't like his coin for checking into the mines and that's
Yeah,
what he's touching. Like that got me in the feels there for sure.
I know a guy who's trying to support his family across the pond, and
The actual pond.
the actual pond had a trade. He was making like making shells, and then it's like, no, we're gonna pay double your pay, go to the mine, and then things happen. It's just like this is just the harsh reality of what America was built on in some capacities, and it's yeah, people in this country do work hard. believe it or not.
Dude, yeah, we make jokes about mining country, but not a life I would ever want to lead. Like it's tough, man.
No, it's just the setting to build grit and toughness. That's where we came from at Homer Hickam High School.
That's right. Yeah, it's a metaphor.
It's all a metaphor. And the unlucky ones, I don't know if this is a metaphor, but 4 for 4, we're gonna pick the most unlucky team in each power four. I know Cody's got one. I got three for each, just because I think there's just in case we have overlaps. So who's the unlucky one there in the ACC?
The unlucky one I'm going to go with, and maybe this is Homerism, but I'm going with North Carolina. I think that there's multiple reasons for being unlucky. I think the first one is they're unlucky that Mac Brown was the guy to revitalize this program because he is a program legend at this point. That's two successful stints overall that he's had at North Carolina. So you have to give him a little leeway. I think after the way last year ended, I think it would have been advantageous to fire Mac Brown. But I don't think if you're North Carolina, you can do that because of the optics of it. So like that's unlucky step number one. Like it would have been a perfect time to hit the reset button to usher Mac Brown out to you're moving into a post Drake May world. You know things are going to be different. So I think that's where the unluckiness starts. Then you keep Mac Brown, you bring in Max Johnson. Again, I was not high on Max Johnson, but the first three series of the season he breaks his leg and like
Yeah,
you're done for the entire season and like you do not have the quarterback depth because you're already trying to replenish the quarterback depth after losing Drake May. And on top of that, if you're Mac Brown at North Carolina, the other thing, like kind of infrastructurally unlucky for the Tar Heels, you've recruited pretty well for North Carolina. Like that's one thing that Mac Brown has done a decent job of is recruiting there. You've missed on a lot of those high-end recruits that you like they have not become the players that they were supposed to be based on the recruiting rankings. And that's I mean, part of that, yes, I think it has to do with the defensive staff that they've hired to this point, but I also think you are like to miss that many times, there's a little bit of unluckiness in there as well.
I think that makes sense. I do not have UNC listed, but I do have a question to throw your way.
Yeah.
So Bubba Cunningham, longtime AD there. Hubert Davis is like what in like year three now on the job replacing Roy
Year four,
Williams.
I think. But yeah, same
Still
3 or 4.
relatively early, having pretty good success there. Baseball program had a really good year, but again, those two things have taken away some of the attention probably on Mac Brown that probably needs to. But now it's to the point where it's like it's a five-alarm fire. We got to address this in the offseason as diplomatically as we can. There'll be a bunch of schmoozing, there'll be a bunch of pandering, there'll be just a bunch of just North Carolina business nonsense that you know all about.
Oh yes.
And they will do this delicately. Hopefully, it goes better than a Miami firing Manny Diaz. That was
Oh,
still,
it definitely will. Like I think that I mean, based on what he himself has said, like I think Mac Brown wants to be out of there. So I think it'll be pretty mutual. I'm retiring and making this easy on y'all.
is he gonna go to Myrtle Beach?
Oh, I think he's already in Myrtle Beach mentally, brother.
Dude, he bought wings, man. He owns wings like Troy Aikman owns Wingstop.
Mac Brown might be the rare, like, super redneck family vacation man who probably has like a house in Myrtle Beach and a house in Galveston as well. Like he's just really rocking it hard.
Oh, dude, he probably got one in Gulf Shores too.
Oh, 100%.
And then, drives right past Fort Walton Beach and Destin, goes to PC.
Gotta hit up PCB.
Oh God, that's perfect. So my unlucky one was Cal
Okay.
because they're 3-4. They haven't won a conference game yet. This was a team that had like AI created a fan base on X. They get
Yeah.
game day, they lose barely. They got to go play in a conference. They're a reluctant partner, basically just grabbing a life raft to stay alive. I still think they're well coached. Jaden Zaccott's not been healthy. Fernando Mendoza's not. He's learning on the fly there. I kind of feel that Cal's a sub 500. They may not go to a bowl game, but I'm like, I still kind of feel that like this isn't a bad program at all. I just feel like they've had some bad luck.
No, I think that's a really, really good point. Like, I mean, you go back to the bad luck, and I think it's like the start of the bad luck, and I think it really comes down to what you mentioned with realignment. Like,
Yes,
they got left out in the cold. They were looking for a home, and they found one, but it's one that puts them at a severe disadvantage. Like, yes, having teams come to Berkeley, yeah, that's a tough game for them. But the flip side of that is every game that you play on the road is going to suck. Like, That's only one game for most of those people, most of the other programs in the ACC that they're having to make that travel. Every road game Cal plays is going to be a lot of travel. So like that is besides Stanford, of course, but like I do think like that's a really tough spot to be in, and they were kind of forced into it. Like they didn't have a real choice on what they could do in that situation. So that's kind of like the impetus for where the unluckiness started.
That's fair. I also had North Carolina State and Louisville listed, obviously pouring out for the Alabama waterfall. Grayson McCall having to medically retire. Should be a college football Hall of Famer. Put Coastal Carolina on the map. Three-time
Hmm.
Sun Belt player, just his body shot. And then you had the really experienced offensive line there for I don't know, for North Carolina State. It's not working out. They've got the new quarterback there, the guy that threw the ball to Jeremiah Smith in high school. I forget what his name is, Bailey or Finley or something. He's
No,
good.
It's Bailey. I can't remember his full name at all, but
Mhm.
we'll find it out real quick on the fly right here. NC State quarterback.
Bailey, 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 Bailey.
Oh God, yeah, it's just giving me Grayson McCall news. That's tough. Let's see.
Not what
NC
you want to
State
see.
quarterback Bailey. That is CJ Bailey, of course.
Okay, cool. Carolina Junior Bailey. And we think Dave Doran's a good head coach. We haven't really put him on the hot seat outside of that early couple of losses to the season. We just kind of realized maybe this team just isn't that good. It's kind of been unlucky with that. You know, you had a great season on the diamond, you had a great season on the hardwood. So much expectations for this team, and they just didn't get it done. And then Louisville's unlucky because they were lucky a year ago. They're playing pretty. They're probably a better team, but they're dealing with some tough. You got to play Miami and SMU, and then Kentucky's going to be fighting for a bowl game at the end of the season. That's not going to be fun.
No, like it's the inverse of last year. Like their schedule was super advantageous last year, and now they have the basically the ACC's version of what Florida's schedule is. Like that's
Yeah,
honestly what it comes down to.
I'll mention Florida here in a little bit, but who do you got for the Big Ten?
In the Big Ten, I'm going. The Big Ten and the Big 12 were the hardest for me to come through
Yeah,
with. And I think in the Big Ten, I'm going to go Wisconsin because this Wisconsin team has looked pretty good. They're hosting Penn State this week. They're 5-2, which I think, given what they've gone through, is pretty damn impressive. Like, not that this is breaking news, but Luke Fickell might be a good head coach. Who
yeah.
could have ever expected this to happen after what he did at Cincinnati? But this team, I think, could be a real chaos agent in the Big Ten if Tyler Van Dyke had stayed healthy.
Yeah.
The offense, like, is getting better with the backup in there, but I don't think they have the same ceiling. Like, it's still a growing process where you should have been kind of just thriving at this point with Tyler Van Dyke. And, like, they looked like they were in line in that game when Tyler Van Dyke tore his ACL to pull off an upset, and they didn't. And like because the offense just came out and looked anemic thereafter. So like against Alabama. So I do think that like um Wisconsin, I think, had a much higher ceiling than I think we realized. And that ceiling, and now like the fact that they are what they are now with their backup in the build or under center, I think speaks to what this team actually would have been capable of if Tyler Van Dyke was healthy.
Yeah, they're 5-2, haven't really beaten anybody of significance. Obviously, the Alabama losing Tyler Van Dyke in the first series really hurts them. I'm not really high in Wisconsin, but I know you were because of Luke Fickell and everything like that. Also, have you seen how Braden Locke spells his first name? It is so cringe.
It hurts my soul quite deeply.
Bredyn. Oh.
Nope. Nope.
Oh man.
Can't be doing that. That's unacceptable.
No, it's not. But I had three other ones. Rutgers, I feel like they were doing really good. 4-0, they've lost three in a row. They've kind of like let the wind out of the sails there. You know, you take advantage of like, okay, we're not playing the Big Ten East anymore. We don't have to play Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State every year. We should take advantage. They've had a bad break the last couple of months. They just lost to UCLA, who I also have. That's probably the best one because like you lose Chip Kelly, you got to hire Deshaun Foster, you got to go across the country. Everyone's saying, "Why are you doing this? You're the reluctant partner that blew up the Big Ten, the Pac-12." That's bad. And then Purdue, just Jeff Brom eventually was going to go back to alma mater, and then you're just dealing with this sad crap. Hudson Card being hurt, and firing Graham
Uh-huh.
Harrell. You have Matt Painter's team going to the Final Four. Mike Babinski's sitting there with his finger on the red button. What are you gonna do? Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of lucky teams in the Big Ten.
No, and I think that UCLA is of those three you mentioned is probably my favorite because you had the Chip Kelly and like the timing of the Chip Kelly departure as well. Like that put them in a really bad spot. On top of that, Dante Moore gets poached by Oregon in the transfer portal. Like just a lot really not working in their favor
Mm.
has happened this year.
No, and it'd be interesting to see what's not working in their favor in the Big 12. You said this was the hardest one for you to figure out.
Yeah, it really was because I think like a lot of these teams like just really are who I thought they were in a lot of ways and like who I thought they were was good, not great. And so like I think there's not a whole lot of unluckiness. I'm gonna go with the Gus Bus and UCF though. And I'm gonna
Yeah,
go back to the decision to bring in KJ Jefferson. The best version of KJ Jefferson in his long college football career at this point would be a perfect fit for a Gus Malzahn offense. The problem, that KJ Jefferson is 2 years in the past. He does not exist on this planet anymore. And so like maybe Gus and the program should have known that, but at the same time, I understand why you're taking that swing. Like it should be a perfect fit, it's perfect match. But now you have Ja'Cory Brown in there, and UCF looks like they're kind of getting back on track. Like I believe they're favorites now at home against BYU this week, which is going to be interesting to see what happens there after what we saw from BYU last week. But regardless of that, like UCF is not in the Big 12 title picture right now. They're not in any kind of college football playoff race right now, which I think if you had just started Ja'Cory Brown to start the season, there's a really good chance that that's the case. And maybe that's not unlucky, but I do think that with how ideally KJ Jefferson in theory should have fit in this offense, I can't fault Gus Malzahn for going that direction, especially with the experience that he had on top of that.
I did have UCF listed, not for the same reasons, but your reasons are much better. You start the season out 3-0. You are the mathematical favorite to win the Big 12 entering week 4, make the playoff. You've lost 4 in a row. You played really well against Iowa State. You almost got them,
Mhm.
couldn't quite do it. You're potentially facing 5 losses in a row, including one to Florida, which you could have gotten. You thought you could have gotten Big Brother. You couldn't do it.
Mhm.
You lose to BYU and you're 3-5. You have to wonder if Gus Malzahn's in the hot seat. And I think his seat's a little bit hotter than people expect because it's like UCF has a passionate fan base. There's a lot of recruiting there. And then you see the other group of 5 teams moving up. And if you lose to BYU, a team that has, yes, nationwide fan base, but a Notre Dame recruiting pool, if you will,
Yeah,
similar things there. And then Cincinnati started to figure it out under Scott Satterfield. And you're like, okay, we're down there with Houston. That's a problem.
that is a problem indeed.
And so I've got them there. The 2 other ones I had were Oklahoma State. I just feel that Ollie Gordon wasn't getting it going from the start. Alan Bowman's being asked too much. You got lucky over Arkansas, but then it's just not been the same. You got unlucky versus BYU. Mike Gundy got unlucky with the cattle.
That yeah, I mean like if your head coach gets headbutted by a cattle, like you
It's
might
not
be
your year.
unlucky. Yeah, things might not be breaking your
And
way.
speaking of things not breaking your way, that would also be Utah with Cam Black Smoke Rising.
Everyone's favorite 30-year-old quarterback.
I should have listened to you, man. Like you were apprehensive about them going from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. You thought it would have made a difference. Like this is a 9-3, 8-4 team, and I didn't listen to you.
I mean, dude, it's okay. Like you weren't the only one that thought that. I was anti-Utah last year. That didn't work out well for me. So like, I think that you and everyone else who was big on Utah going into the Big 12, there were valid reasons for that. Like that wasn't like an unfounded conclusion to reach. But like I had my trepidation. I had my trepidation about Cam Black Smoke Rising because when's he been on the field? Like he hasn't. He can't stay healthy. Dude is we talk about Quinn Ewers being brittle. Cam Rising might just be paper mache at this point, brother.
You could knock him out with a paper machete. He'd just fall down. Yes,
That's
it's tough.
right.
Now to the SEC. Who is the most unlucky team in the SEC in your eyes, Cody?
So this is very much a long-term play and less so just this season alone, but I'm gonna stick with Mississippi State because I think they've just been unlucky. Like we love Mike Leach, and I don't mean this to sound as crass as it's going to, but like your Hall of Fame level head coach died
Yeah.
unexpectedly. and you've been picking up the pieces since then. And like, I actually do want to shout out Jeff Lebby. This Mississippi State team has gotten friskier and friskier with each passing week. Like,
Yeah.
I am more high, despite you Mississippi State's record right now. I am higher on Mississippi State than I was coming into the season long term under Jeff Lebby because I think that they've really shown some things. They've shown a lot of fight, a lot of fire, and a lot of improvement. So shouts to them for doing that. But at the end of the day, they're still 1-6. Like it's
Yeah.
still not going well. And so like I do think that when Mike Leach passed away, Zach Arnett was ostensibly the right hire to try and just transition from that moment. Turns out he's just a horrible head coach, which is unfortunate, and that set your program back even further in the wake of
Yeah.
losing Mike Leach. So like just bigger picture, I don't think there's a team in FBS as unlucky as Mississippi State.
You lose Will Rogers to the portal to Washington. You go get Blake Shapen transfer from Baylor. He's hurt. You seem to have struck gold there with Michael Van Buren Jr. He's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They um they gave Georgia a run for their money. They gave Texas A&M a run for their money. They lost by like 10 and 14 points. I mean,
Yeah.
like all things considered, like that's pretty good. They are going to upset somebody this year. I don't know
Oh
who
yeah.
it's going to be. We did say that they had a pretty navigable schedule, but yeah, they were the number one unlucky team for me.
Okay,
Um,
nice.
yes, we agree there. I also said Kentucky and Florida. Kentucky because like okay, you get Liam Cohen back. You think you're going to be able to do it with Brock Vandagriff. Turns out Brock Vandagriff sucks, and Liam Cohen's a well thought of asset. He goes and he replaces Dave Canellis at Tampa, who gets the Carolina job. So you go get Bush Hamden, who we think is going to be good. You pulled Bush Hamden away from his alma mater on Spencer Danielson's staff to come here. They're trying
Yeah.
Jennifer, but like honestly, they might be the I'm trying Jennifer award winner this year. But
Oh,
it's like
absolutely.
yeah, you then you also deal with the fact that conference realignment happens. You get rid of divisions. You benefited the most of anybody in the SEC because you are
Yeah.
the Iowa of the SEC. And now it's like, yeah, you go, you win in Ole Miss, and then it's like you get Georgia on its worst day and you still couldn't beat them.
Yeah, get Georgia on its worst day. You get smacked around by Florida, which, Florida
Yeah.
has, you're about to unpack their unluckiness, but like at the same time, as high as we are on what Billy Napier has done to this point in the season, given all the obstacles he's faced, you should probably still shouldn't get smacked around by Florida.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't at all. And with Florida, it's just the schedule is just brutal. The expectations, the fan
Yeah,
base wants better.
yeah,
I think the one thing that's been a saving grace is that one of their other rivals has hit the fan there with Florida State.
yeah.
LSU started to figure it out, and Georgia's dynastic. So can you do? You almost beat Tennessee. If you win that game, you're 5-2. You think you've got a shot to beat Georgia in the cocktail party. Not happening.
Yeah.
It was a pitch there. I think Chris Landers put out there, and I said like, there's a better chance of Armageddon happening tomorrow than Georgia losing the cocktail party.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I don't see it. But yeah, hey, let the Florida folk believe.
Graham Mertz goes out there. He was actually playing pretty good prior to getting hurt. Like Graham
Yeah.
Mertz was actually like, I'll give him a lot of credit. The guy's really mentally tough, very erratic, but like the team bought into him and they were playing really well. And he's keeping the team in the games, talent sort of stuff. Your best player is now playing for Georgia and Trevor Etienne. And then DJ Lagway's out there. I hope Florida loses next week, but like every other game after that, I want to see them succeed because I feel that like it's not I don't know if it's like a fun team to root for, but like you hope good things can happen for them in the future because of just the last couple of years have just been it's been so awful since COVID, honestly.
Yeah, I mean it's been tumultuous to say the least. Like, we think about I feel like it gets not talked about enough, like the Jaden Rashada debacle that happened
Yeah.
there. Like there's just been a lot of stuff that frankly does not seem like totally in Billy Napier's control. Like that seemed like an NIL fund issue, not a Billy Napier issue. And I don't, it's hard to ever know behind the scenes like how much head coaches and programs are involved with the NIL funds, but like you can't be but so involved without getting an NCAA sanction upon you. So like there's something there and like it's been tough for Florida. So like to see them still have the fight and the buy-in that they clearly do still have, like that's a testament in Billy Napier's favor.
I would agree, that bird's got a lot of fight in him, but what's an hawk? It's a bird that don't fly. You mean like a parakeet? Yes. We are going to Antonio Banderas Bowl of the week here with some Carmageddon. Yes, we are going to go there for Northwestern at Iowa and Iowa City. This
Mhm.
is we call this bowl Carmageddon because this is our former colleague Mark Carman's favorite team, the Northwestern Wildcats, and his alma mater, the Iowa Hawkeyes. And there's Farmageddon and Carmageddon's too good, dude. And Antonio's
Oh,
all
dude,
about this game.
absolutely. It's a rivalry for us and us alone, and Mark Carmen as well. You have this written on the outline. Does Carm know that this game is happening, and more importantly, does he know that Antonio is coming to town?
I don't know. I don't think so. I remember like we went to this game last year. It was played at Wrigley, and
Hmm.
Antonio tried to climb up on Sheffield into my old apartment there, and someone's like, "What's this creepy blow up doll doing in here?"
Bulldog.
But yeah, so where were we last week for Antonio? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, we went to Arrowhead. It was Houston,
Yeah,
Kansas.
yes, we did not get Antonio there because he was. Hold on, I got to take this. Hola, ¿cómo están? Bulldog, Carmageddon it. I'm not gonna pour sugar on you, Antonio. See, no. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
I don't know if you that was really bad, and I just gotta say this right now. We gotta do some damage control. He found Brian Ferentz,
Oh no. Oh no.
and he's taking him up to the Brian Ferentz suite at the Children's Hospital, and he wants Brian Ferentz to pour sugar on him.
We might need to end the podcast right now because we got some business to handle. Holy hell.
But the good news is he's a little lethargic because he ate all those burn ends, and he's still sweating out. So he's been in a coma for like 4 days because of all the barbecue he ate in Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, talk about glazed. Like my man was just slathered in barbecue sauce. Like I talked, he was saying pour some sugar on me, but he was just talking about the sweet, barbecue sauce.
I think one of the reasons that Patrick Mahomes threw another interception is because he tried to throw the ball at Antonio and he just fell asleep.
Hey, you know what? I think I would rather have a loose cannon blow up doll than some of the Chiefs wide receivers before the DeAndre Hopkins trade.
I mean, what's the difference between a loose camp blow up doll and Rasheed Rice, to be honest with you?
I
Or
don't think
Juju.
Antonio drives 120 on the freeway.
When Antonio goes to Dallas, he's not driving, he's hanging out with Yeri Jones.
That's right. He has a
Yeri.
driver.
But yeah, so we're going to Iowa City and the Children's Hospital, Las Wiener Schnitzel. He's all about that. He became friendly with David Braun last time because he thought
Mhm.
Braun, shave face. That was kind of his thing. And we also told him this might be the last time he gets to see Kirk Ferentz, even though we haven't told him we're going to Cornucopia at the end of the year. So shh.
We can't let him know that. He did ask me if we could go to David Braun's lake house, and I was like, "Does David Braun have a lake house?" And he like pulled up the picture, and it was Northwestern's football stadium. So their practice field that they're playing on this year, and I was like, "No, we're going to Iowa City," and he said Bulldog, of course. So
He showed up. He showed up wearing his Hogwarts robes and his wand, thinking
oh
we were going to
yeah.
go to Azkaban, and no, we're going to the antithesis of Azkaban. We're going to Iowa City.
Yeah, it's tough for him. I feel like Antonio has been getting a lot of like bad beats lately because he thought he was going to Potter Lake last week. We did make a pit stop, but he did not get to frolic quite as much as he wanted to in Potter Lake because we had to go to Arrowhead. So, a lot of tough beats for Antonio. I hope that he doesn't lash out because of that, but I'm given your conversation that you just had with him, I'm less confident in that happening.
I tried to explain to him like you got to take the good with the bad in life, and that's a
Yeah.
foreign concept to him. I'm like, you were in Gainesville, you were not backing down, and somehow you teleported to Nashville. You had to hang out with Diego Pavia and put the goalpost in the Cumberland. Like that should never happen. Like that's physically impossible, but you pulled that off. So like these last couple of weeks, like you know, when you drink a lot, it's like you're borrowing happiness from tomorrow. And I tried to explain that to Antonio, and he just said bulldog.
He just said Bulldog, and like, I respect that about him. he is a go with the punches kind of guy, but he always wants more. That's the only unfortunate part.
He always wants more. And the best part is we're going to be talking about Antonio's favorite band here to finish the show with some just like Novocaine. Let them have outer space. We got rock and roll with some Def Leppard. I tell you what, man, like looking up the lyrics, trying to find depth here is impossible. Their lyrics are about as deep as Antonio. It's about as deep as Shallow Hal or a puddle.
We have to pick Carmageddon. We did not pick Carmageddon.
We did not. I'm picking Iowa.
I'm picking Northwestern because who cares? Like this football game is gonna be gross, brother.
It's, it's going to be gross. And same with Pour Some Sugar on Me. Who do you have for that game?
Yeah, so I'm joining Antonio because pour some sugar on me while I'm watching Boise State UNLV. Good God, I could not be more excited for this game. I like these are legitimately the two leading contenders to be the G5 representative in the college football playoff right now. This isn't necessarily an elimination game because they're probably still going to play each other for the Mountain West title later this year, but it is kind of a litmus test for both of these to see like how ready they are for that moment. I think it's going to be high scoring. The total's in the mid 60s. I'm gonna go with Boise State. I think that UNLV's defense, despite having Barry Odom as their head coach, has been a little leaky in terms of giving up explosive plays in the run. Not what you want when you're facing Nash and Genty. Not what you want at all.
No.
So I think that UNLV's defense kind of bites them a little bit in this one. So I'm going with Boise State, but good God, man, this makes me want to take my clothes off, like pour some sugar on me.
We got some really good games here. We got Syracuse Pitt today, and then we got this on
Yeah,
Friday. Those are kind of must watch here. And also with the fact that you mentioned like this is probably the winner of this game is the favorite to win the group of five because at this point, like with Liberty out of it because of Kennesaw State, there's nobody legitimate in the MAC. There's nobody legitimate in the Sun Belt. There's nobody legitimate in CUSA. And at that point, it's like, do you really think it's going to be Army or Navy? And I'm like,
I don't.
nah,
I don't, man.
no, I'd rather be Memphis. I could trust Memphis more than them, to be honest with you. I trust North Texas maybe over them to be. That's
I don't
me.
know if we should trust Chandler Morris, but that's to each their own.
No, and I don't trust Antonio going to Nashville. Yes, I've got Texas at Vanderbilt for pour some sugar on me here because this game is hot, sticky, sweet, down from my head to my feet. From my head down to my feet. Yes. That game's going to be a lot of fun. You got the live dog, you got Quinn Ewers, and you got Arch Manning, Sarkeesian, Clark Lee, oat milk, vodka. Let's go. Unfortunately, I'm going to go for the doors. I'm going to go with Texas.
I have this game coming up later, so I will not pick it yet, but yeah.
I don't know if that game's bringing on the heartbreak for you, but who's bringing on the heartbreak for you?
Notre Dame's bringing on the heartbreak for Navy, as you just mentioned. I think they might get their brains beat in this one, unfortunately. Like this magical run for Navy. I do think that it's not going to be as bad as what we saw in Dublin last year, which was 42-3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think Navy is a much better team than they were last year. I think Navy's offense with Horvath is going to be able to put up at least something on the board. Like if they got 2, 3 touchdowns in this game, would not surprise me. Unfortunately, I don't think this defense is going to have a shot in hell of stopping Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame's offense is special by any stretch of the imagination, but there comes a time for Navy and Army when you play a team that just can outsize you because that's the thing about Army Navy. That's why they run these offenses that they do, and it counts on the defensive side of the ball too. Like these guys are just smaller, and like Notre Dame's offensive line has been ravaged with injuries, but the thing about the backups that may not be able to hold up against the highest level of competition in college football, they can push around a 230-pound man in front of them. And so like I just think that Notre Dame just kind of plays bully ball in this one.
I guess we should have gone to Navy or Army, man. Like we would have been line meat out there. Like,
That's right.
but like Notre Dame is the line meat. Like that is just some glorious 300-pound, just beefy boys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I don't have that game, but I like where your head's at with that. And obviously, you've got Notre Dame winning. Bringing on the heartbreak, I've got Mizzou at Alabama because this game it's a playoff elimination game, and I'm going to go with Alabama. I pretty much implied that because no Brady Cook with a fired up secondary in a game that Alabama has to win at home. I don't see how Mizzou has any shot.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to throw in there. And like I said, I'm with Alabama. I'm with you on Alabama on that one.
And then Armageddon it. Who's getting it?
uh I have Florida State Miami for this one. It's certainly they're Armageddon in Tallahassee right now because good God, what the hell is happening with this program? Um, Miami, I do think this feels like a game where Miami is going to go scorched earth because I don't think Florida State, I think they are better with Brock Glenn. They're still bad. Like they are still going, the defense is still not that good. They gave up 23 points to Duke. Granted, Duke did not move the ball well. Florida State shot themselves in the foot repetitively. But I do think that Miami is just going to score at will in this game. And I don't think Florida State's going to be able to keep up. I think it's going to be Miami, I like Miami might win this game by 30, legitimately.
I feel that. I've got that game coming up here in a little bit.
Okay.
Armageddon, and I've got LSU at Texas A&M because are you getting it? As in, are you getting into the college football playoff? Winner of this game
There
pretty
you
much
go.
gets there. And I'm on the other side of the coin with you here. I'm going with A&M. I feel that the home field advantage forces Nuss to throw a pick that he can't afford to do. Maybe Colin Klein, you're tough. We know you're tough. Run the ball and don't let Connor Wegman lose this game for you, like we know he's capable of.
He's definitely capable. As soon as you said, Nuss throws a pick that he, can't afford to, I'm like, the good news is that Connor Wegman still might match it. So we could still be okay.
Let's go with Antonio's favorite song, Rocket, which is about living in the past and nothing. I don't know. It just Joe Elliott, Jesus, what are you writing here?
It's just words, brother. I've got BYU UCF for this one. I think this is kind of where the rocket comes back down to earth, comes down and allegedly starts a forest fire like an October sky for BYU. Like I said, Ja'Cory Brown with UCF has come in and kind of been what they were hoping KJ Jefferson was going to be for this team. UCF looks a lot better, and BYU, they what I saw against Oklahoma State last week is probably ringing a little too true in my head, but
Yeah,
I think the come down is coming pretty soon for BYU. Another tough road game, another really long road trip that we're, kind of a sneaky long road trip because you don't like because they're not specifically on the West Coast, you're not thinking of BYU, but I mean, Utah to Orlando is a long ass trip that you're having to take here. So I'm going with UCF. I think UCF pulls off the upset and ends BYU's perfect season.
spicy. I did think UCF has a chance to beat BYU. I thought that was a very losable game. I don't know if you intended this, but Rocket going to Cape Canaveral, which the whole reason UCF exists is to get people to work at the space station. But I
I'm
love
sure at
that.
one point that was part of my thought process, but here we are.
I always put stuff in
We're
parentheses to explain like why I picked this because like one week I'm like, why the hell I picked this game?
I should probably start doing that because I do not do that. So I just had to look at the game and be like, how'd I get here?
I love it. And I've got Florida State Miami here. I just feel it's Joe Elliott fawning over yesteryear, which feels like, very Florida State and Miami to do. Miami saying we're back in Florida State, wishes it was not this year. And I've got Miami doing unspeakable things to Florida State. It's
It's gonna be
like
bad, dude.
it's gonna be so bad. Like Miami's gonna be ranked like top five after this game.
Yeah, this is good. This is the get right game, which is just a wild thing to say at Miami, Florida State.
And I don't know if they're fooling us, but who's fooling us? Fooling.
Uh, I think Brent Venables fooled the entire Oklahoma administration because I've got Oklahoma Ole Miss in this one.
Yes.
Um, Yeah, so I think both of these teams are fooling us to very different degrees. Like Oklahoma fooled us into thinking that they were gonna be anything of consequence in the SEC. They certainly are not. They might not make a bowl game. Ole Miss fooled us into thinking they were a college football playoff contender. They are not that. So here we are with these two teams facing off. Ole Miss is gonna win running away, dude. Like I'm confident in Ole Miss putting up points on basically anyone they play. The Kentucky game is an outlier. I don't think that happens in this game. And if they put up 24 points on the board, Oklahoma's not going to be able to get there.
I have nothing to add. That's exactly the exact same thing I had here. Oklahoma, yeah,
Really?
Oklahoma fooling us as an SEC team, Ole Miss fooling us as a playoff team, and obviously
Yeah.
I've got Ole Miss winning by 7 scores.
Yeah, it's going to be brutal.
Yeah, I don't know if it's brutal, but what's hysteria? I mean, maybe there'll be hysteria, and after that game, I don't know. What's hysteria for you?
So let's start with the first two lines of hysteria. Out of touch, out of reach. Yeah, you could try to get closer to me. No touchy. It's Texas versus Vandy. No
Yeah.
touchy, Coach Steve Sarkisian. They're worried about the hysteria. They're putting up the nets in Nashville at First Bank Stadium. Diego Pavia's in town, always hysteria because how can you not love that man, the live dog himself? Unfortunately, Texas is going to win probably by like three scores, but that's okay. We still love you, Vandy. We still love you, Diego.
I love that. Obviously, I had them for pour some sugar on me. So mine is, are you alone tonight? Who else want to watch this game tonight? Yes, I've got SMU at Duke.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going back and forth on this. I initially had SMU winning, but I'm going with Duke because I think
Ooh.
the vision of a really sad Rhett Lashley looking, looking for his bowl of shrimp cocktail is doing it. And then all 30,000 people storm the field at Duke.
Oh, you mean 3,000, brother? What are you talking about? It's basketball season. They're camped outside Cameron right now.
They're breaking in, man. And we're breaking in. Yes, this was episode 120 of False Start. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter or the X at Buhler118. You can follow Cody Williams at the Sizzle20. You can follow the show at CFB False Start. Like, rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. Be sure to leave a 5-star review. Yes, I looked up, there's a hand there. I'm like, is he gonna smack me? 5-star review on Apple. If you do that and say it's a 6-star review, we'll give you a starter jacket. We don't even know what that is yet, but we'll figure something out there. If you subscribe to the channel, give us a shout. Just let us know that you did. We'll give you a shout on the show. We'll answer any questions you may have. Just be prepared, guys. Like college football, give it about another week or two. It's going to be absolutely insane. You get the playoff coming in. We're also going to be doing solo playoff reaction ranking shows afterwards. We're going to do it Goldilocks. Too hot, too cold, just right. So it'll just be
That's
one
right.
of us for 25 minutes or so getting out of there. I'll be coming to you guys probably on election night for that, just because Cody will be working and he's got to figure out the content stuff there. So I'll do that, and we'll probably alternate. I think we're also looking at potentially doing shows after the playoff games, whatever
Yeah.
that
Oh yeah.
sounds. Because
Got to be done. I mean, like we love talking to y'all. We love coming to y'all after these games. You know, can't say that whatever, Wednesday nights that we're gonna have to do that on. Can't say that I'm super excited for that. But hey, we'll bring the goods regardless. Once we get there, it'll be fine.
Oh, no question. I'm really looking forward to this weekend. And yes, we'll be coming to you guys semi-live with 3 yards in a cloud of punt after Texas A&M LSU. Cody will be sober and I may not be, but that's okay.
I mean, I might be punch drunk after the Saturday that I'm expecting. So
I get it, man. Love is like a bomb. Baby, come and get it on. Like living like a lover with a radar phone. Antonio loves this stuff. And this is false start.